We made this.
Welcome to Back to the Decade, the podcast where we travel back 10 years and reflect on pop culture of the time. I'm Thomas Adams, joined as always by Nick Hoffman.
What's up?
Nick, what are you up to in these trying times that we continue to navigate in the world of 2020?
Oh, man. Keeping busy, man. Social distancing, wearing a mask whenever I go out, trying to be responsible in that way. But my wife and I just went on our little baby moon to Bump Ass, Virginia at Lake Anna.
Is that really what it's called?
Yeah, it's Bump Ass. That's
Bump
just
ass.
how it's spelled. B-U-M-P-A-S-S, Bump Ass.
All right.
Yeah, and we had a fantastic time. Just like we had our own little beach. Thanks. A shout out to the Pardos. Minty Pardo, a good friend of both of ours. She hooked it up, and her parents let us stay there for a few days and just unwind. And yeah, we canoed, saw sunsets and sunrises, and made really good food. And yeah, man, it was just a really nice kind of get away from everything. Much needed, especially for Kat, because she's been working her ass off with the CDC. So for her to have
absolutely
a solid week really was nice. And then outside of that, man, just continuing to do some house projects and, taking care of Kat and the baby, awaiting little Lizzie's arrival.
We're both excited about that. We're doing our baby moon in 2 days, actually. We're just doing a one-day thing, going up to the Blue Ridge Mountains, going to have a little spa day, and I guess same as you, just kind of get away from it and relax. I don't know when the idea of the baby moon started, but I like it. I think it's a necessary thing.
Dude, every time I say baby moon, I would say 85% of people are like, what? I don't know. I don't even know where I heard it from. But yeah, it's a thing. And it's where it's like a little, instead of taking like your honeymoon after your wedding, it's the
before
it's
baby
the baby moon
trip.
before the baby. So yeah, it's a great idea, a great cause. And I fully believe in it.
I think vacation is more necessary before a baby than after a wedding. That's just my opinion. So honeymoon was great, but this feels a lot more useful in my life right now to have an excuse to get away.
Yeah,
but yeah, sure. by the time you guys hear us next, we will probably both be dads.
We're not recording one more?
We're gonna record one more before, but by the time it is, they'll be here.
Got you.
We'll have little ones running around.
That's right. We'll record before the babies come, release the episode, and then as that episode is playing, we'll have little babies in our hands.
Yeah, because editing is going to be a lot more challenging when there's a newborn to attend to every God knows how long. I feel like it can't possibly be worse than what's been described to me. Like every time someone tries to describe it, they're like, you're never going to sleep ever. You're never going to have a second to yourself. And I'm like, you're getting my expectations very low. I feel like it'll be a piece of cake compared to how much negativity gets slammed into my head about the whole thing.
It won't be that bad.
No, it'll be exciting and it'll be great.
Yeah, exactly. It's an adventure, man.
Yeah, and then get acclimated to number one, and then maybe number two, and then it's just a piece of cake from there. Before we get going on today's episode, we do have a couple orders of business. As of this episode, the July episode, Back to the Decade has joined the We Made This podcast network. Shout out to the guys over at We Made This. They're a new podcast network, relatively new anyway, founded in January of 2019 with the mission to bring together pop culture podcasts such as ours that cover TV, film, music, all that good stuff, and compiles those shows onto one shared network for the purpose of building a little bit of a community around like-minded programs. So we're excited about that. It could be a good opportunity for us. So if you look for our podcast in your podcast feed and you see we made this as the host, that is correct. But yeah, so with that out of the way, let's get to some things that we've been watching before we hit our decade rewind. Today, we're going to cover some fun stuff. We're going to do a little sports talk about the 2010 FIFA World Cup, which went from June 11th to July 11th, 2010. That was a bit of a refresher for me to go back, and I know I watched a lot of that World Cup live, but a lot of great moments that I had forgotten about. We're also going to discuss the 2010 NBA Finals, which feels appropriate as hopefully the NBA playoffs for 2020 are able to get underway in this current month. We're also going to discuss two more films that were Best Picture nominees from the year 2010, Christopher Nolan's Inception and The Kids Are All Right. Now, Inception is a movie that we talked about in the first episode when we were covering our 5 favorite films of the year. That's a film that I know that both of us love a lot. I think we maybe both had it at number 1. So that'll be exciting to talk about.
Did I have it at number 1? I don't know.
I think you did. Either it was like number 1 or number 2. I think we talked about it at the same time just because they were both kind of in the same mix.
I feel like I said no, it is not my number 1 because I knew it would be your number 1. So I will choose something different.
So you wanted to be different.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You can be different. It's a great movie regardless. But yeah, I've been kind of going back through old Christopher Nolan movies just because I knew we were going to cover Inception. He's obviously a filmmaker I like a lot. Made some of my favorites. Tenet is allegedly coming out in a month. It's been pushed back multiple times already, so
it's not happening.
It's pretty doubtful that we'll actually see that movie, but I always like to kind of revisit some of his movies in anticipation of a new one.
Yeah.
I watched Interstellar the other day from 2014. What are your feelings on Interstellar?
I saw it once in the theater in Mall of Georgia. They're like giant,
They're giant IMAX.
Yeah. Is it 70 millimeter there? Have you been doing that yet? But I don't know.
I think so, because I went and saw Dunkirk there in 70 millimeter, and that's one of the only places in Georgia that has that.
Yeah. My feelings were pretty meh. I thought it was okay. I think was that the movie that followed The Dark Knight Rises, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so coming off that high of that trilogy, I just thought it was okay. But I have not watched it since, so that'd be a fun one to watch down the road. But I love Nolan, so I'll sit in a theater or in my living room and watch any of his movies anytime.
Yeah, that's one that when I saw it, it was right around the time that we were looking into moving to Atlanta. So we were looking at some apartments and just happened to be in town the weekend that movie came out. So we, set an appointment to go see that in a big IMAX screen. I don't think it was Mall of Georgia. It was maybe in Alpharetta. But saw it. I liked it. I was pretty let down from my anticipation of it, just because, I'm such a huge fan of some of his other movies, and I thought that one was a little bit convoluted and difficult to follow. But watching it again the other day, I was pretty blown away by how much more I liked it than the first time I saw it. And I think a big factor in it is that the movie is so much about a father-daughter relationship, and it really wears that relationship on its sleeve. And getting to watch it again, about to have a daughter, it really made those emotional beats hit home. And I found myself just so much more moved by it than I was the first time. And it kind of allowed me to forgive some of the problems that I had with it in previous viewings. but it's a really impressive movie. Just like the score and the visuals, so many of the technical details are just so above and beyond what many filmmakers are willing to do. It's admirable just in that alone.
You remember that movie Contact?
I do remember Contact.
Well, another actually Matthew McConaughey movie with Jodie Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Critically acclaimed at the time. What did that come out in like the late 90s?
93, 94.
Oh, was it that old?
I'll look it up.
It reminded me kind of of that, where I was like expecting to see something all great and inspiring, and then I found myself pretty bored with it. At least at the time, that's how I felt about Interstellar. I thought it was kind of funny. But then going back, and I still need to go back and watch Contact. But I caught myself watching like the last like 15 minutes of Contact recently, and I was like, damn, I really need to watch this movie again.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, because I watched it when I don't know, I probably just didn't have the patience for it. I was too young and dumb. So that's another one that I want to go back and watch, because it's probably a lot better than what I perceived it to be at the time I watched it many years ago. So yeah,
it was from 97, so you're probably in your early teens when that comes out, and maybe it was just too much. I don't know. I'm not sure I've ever actually seen that in its entirety. I intend to watch it pretty soon, because I think that's Zemeckis. Yeah, that's Robert Zemeckis. Yeah, that's definitely one that I want to cross off of my blind spots.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching some Christopher Nolan movies, and the other thing I've been doing is I've been buried in The Last of Us Part 2. I know that you were saying that you haven't played a lot of video games like that recently, like you played Nintendo Switch and stuff.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion is about the extent to what I've played.
Super Mario World.
So. Mario Kart, and my buddy and I will play this basketball game on it's called like NBA. Yeah, it's called like NBA Underground. It's pretty fun. It's kind of like modern day Jam.
Jam was great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for like the next Jam. Like we used to play a version of it on like the 64, and then there was a version of it on PlayStation and Xbox, and now there's like this version. It's not like affiliated with NBA Jam, but it's like a similar style of like, you know, get on fire and you like fly really high and you dunk insane dunks, but no, I haven't played anything so narratively in depth as The Last of Us, which it looks like a cinematic experience when I see a trailer for it on the TV.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's one of it's doing a good job of filling the void of not having many movies this year, just because everything's kind of a streaming release, or it's just hard to get excited about new movies in 2020. And this game's come along and has really captured the culture in a lot of ways. I mean, it definitely has its critics. It's been a very polarizing game because there are some controversial themes surrounding violence, and you know, the way that it depicts certain violent scenes has been problematic to a lot of people, and it's it's forcing the player to do some things that they wouldn't like to do. I myself have been uncomfortable many times while playing it, but that being said, like it's just completely captured my attention. And I'm not someone that plays much video games at all. I stopped for a while, and then when COVID happened, I started getting back into it. And The Last of Us Part 1, I think, came out in 2013. I got a PlayStation pretty recently. Like, it hit some Black Friday sale, and I got it for the sole purpose to like play this Last of Us game that I heard so much about. And that game blew me away. I played that maybe a year ago, a little more. And Part 2 lives up to it. It's an experience that I've not been able to replicate in that medium, and it came out 2 weeks ago, and I was determined to finish it by the time the baby came. It's like a 25-hour commitment, I guess, and I'm almost there. I'm like 4 hours away, so it's gonna happen.
Nice. I'm just waiting for Doom. I'm just waiting for Doom to come on the Switch platform. The new Doom.
Are they doing
Eternal.
Doom on Switch?
Well, yeah, there's already Doom games on there, like the old one that they remastered, and then there's one from like 2016, 2017 that's pretty good. But I'm waiting for this new one, which has already come out on every other platform. I'm waiting for it to come to the Switch, which I thought was supposed to happen in June. But yeah, man, I just love a good old-fashioned first-person shooter. So there's not many of those on the Switch, so I'm waiting for that.
First-person shooters are always fun. Last of Us is a third-person shooter. I feel like I tend to do better for some reason with third-person shooters. I don't know if it's a depth perception problem, but I used to play tons of Call of Duty in high school, and I was just always so terrible. Like, we used to play in these like groups with different friends, and I was first one out every time. Like, they'd have their stats where it's like 18 kills, 3 deaths, and I'm like 4 kills, 27 deaths.
Man, I grew up with GoldenEye, so I was there kind of in the beginning. I was there in the beginning of that craze of first person shooting. First person shooter, and I was pretty good at it for a while, and Halo came out, and then I did love Gears of War. That was a third person.
Were you in the Halo craze? Were you a part of that when that came out?
Yeah, I mean, my buddy had an Xbox before like everyone else, I felt like, and we would always play Halo over his place. So, I mean, I wasn't like the best at it, but I could compete. It was always fun.
Yeah, I always liked Halo. I think the like story mode never got me. Like, some people swear by that story and say that, oh, they got to make a movie and blah blah blah. I never was entranced by that aspect of Halo.
I'm a story mode guy, man. Like, I'm all about, before anything else, story mode. Any game.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I want story mode over the multiplayer, like online bullshit. I'll take story mode any day.
Yeah, because I mean the multiplayer stuff is just like, it's like playing on your phone. Like, it's there. Like, you're just kind of playing to play. You're not getting entranced in a story or anything. But yeah, I was a fan of those. But like Last of Us 2 is something that I'm just not. Well, and Last of Us 1, I shouldn't just single out the second game. That series is something like I've not experienced before, and yeah, I'm like blown away by it. So nice. That's all I've really got for this month. You have anything worth mentioning?
Oh man, worth mentioning. Well, most of the things I've been watching are kind of embarrassing, but I've enjoyed them lately.
Those are okay too.
My wife and I, Kat and I, will watch Below Deck, which is a show on Bravo that she got me into, and I'm not usually a fan of shows like this, but I find this show to be incredibly entertaining, and it's just funny. Like,
what's the concept?
It's basically about a boat, like a yacht crew, that you got a team up top that handles all the cleaning of the boat and making sure you're getting directed into your docks on correctly and coordinate everything as far as maintenance for the boat. And then you got your bottom deck crew that does all the the service, beds and food and the drinks and just entertaining the people on the boat. And so there's always a certain group. So usually there's 2 episodes dedicated to each charter, and you'll have like a different group come on every 2 episodes, and then usually in the first half of the season, someone's gonna one of the crew is gonna get kicked off because they suck or they're not molding well with the other the rest of the crew. So it's just it's fun because I come from the service industry, so
right.
It's kind of fun to watch that play out and watch these different personalities try and get along with each other. And then I also had the pleasure of meeting Captain Sandy in Ponte Vedra last summer. That was kind of funny. She was so cool. Captain Sandy is like, she's one of like two captains, because there's different seasons. There's like her season, and then there's like this older dude. He has a season 2, which I don't care about that one because I love Captain Sandy. So
you're committed to Captain Sandy.
Exactly. So it's not a show I typically watch, but I find this one to be pretty well made, and I like, most of the time I like the people that they get on there to work, and it's kind of fun to watch them try to work it all out. And then so yeah, that, and then we've been watching this show Dirty John, and this season is on is it USA? Yeah. This season is about
I've seen that.
Betty Broderick, who murdered her husband in the early 90s. He basically left her after they had like 4 kids, and they spent his life together, and out of nowhere, once he got successful, it's Christian Slater and Amanda Peet, and they're just wonderful. They're wonderful to watch on screen. So yeah, it's basically about their divorce.
Was the first season the one that had Tammy Taylor, like from Friday Night Lights?
Yeah, maybe. I did not watch the first season. I just watched. No, I just watched this one because I liked the cast for one, and then I didn't really know Betty Broderick's story very well, but it's been pretty entertaining. And then the last couple of days, I've been watching Floor is Lava.
Dude,
which is on
me
Netflix.
too.
And I just find this show to be hilarious because it reminds me of like a show I would watch on like a Saturday morning as a kid. It's just like ridiculous.
I was going to bring it up because I was like, you're talking about embarrassing TV. I've been watching Floor is Lava.
It's so funny, dude. And then like I love how they edit it to make it like every time someone like falls into the lava, it's like they actually die.
I know. The first episode, I think it was twins and a mom, and the girl falls in, and the guy's like, no.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so silly, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm like, I want to do it. I'm like, let's go, sign me up.
I know.
Where can I compete?
Let's do it. You want to do it? Let's sign up.
We'll figure out.
We have our story about having daughters at the same time.
We got a podcast.
You know who could get to do it with us is our buddy Chris. That'd be perfect.
Oh yeah, we need his length. He's a tall guy. Can really make those jumps work.
Yeah, like kind of like the way we play basketball together. I think we could do this.
Yeah,
I think we should sign him in the post.
I don't know when they're going to do the next season, but I'm like, I want to do this. This looks so much fun. For those that don't know, the concept of the show is like you have 3 contestants, and you're in some sort of like set design that's like a bedroom, or like it has like different sorts of themes to it. And there's these random platforms across this vast floor, and the floor is this like heated red water. I'm assuming it's not actual lava, but
yeah,
the idea is like the 3 people have to get from one side of the room to the other without going in the lava. And it like reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to play that with my siblings, where you'd like put pillows in the floor and you got to like make it across the room without falling on the carpet or something.
It's a game now, you know that? Like Kat reminded me of this today. It's actually like a teen tweeting thing or I don't know, some sort of fad where you're in it with a group of friends and you got your phone out and like you're recording them and you go, floor is lava, and then they have to like jump on something like in public to keep themselves off the ground. Yeah. So it's actually like a tween thing. So that's why it's popular now.
Yeah, I found myself like watching the people navigate these obstacle courses and being like, what are you doing? You could so clearly go the other way.
Oh my God, dude, I yell at the television is so frustrating. And why there's so much standing around. Why are you standing there? Just
they're all like
everyone move, keep
figuring it
moving.
out. The one
Yeah.
episode that I don't know how many you've seen, but there was a spinning bed. Did you see that
Yeah.
course?
I've watched like 4 episodes. So yeah, I saw the spinning bed one.
Yeah, I was like, that looks like so much fun. to not only like jump onto the spinning bed, but then like navigate the getting off of it, which seemed a lot harder than getting on.
Well, dude, let's do it. 2021. We can talk about
next season.
Yeah, we can talk about it later in life.
I think for me, I don't know that the actual obstacle courses would be the issue. Like the hanging on to things, I'm pretty confident in my ability to do that. But the jumps, I'm not a very balanced person. So the jumps have me intimidating. You're jumping like 5 or 6 feet onto pretty wet surfaces, doing face plants.
Yeah. I feel like I would be pretty good at it. I'm ready.
You guys could be the guys that are just like running through it, and I'm like coaching from the back.
Yeah.
Get that rope over there. That does something. But yeah, that's a fun show.
All right, should we do it? Should we jump back?
Let's hit it. Let's hit the decade rewind.
Let's go back to the decade.
All right, so July 2010. We're gonna start with. You want to start with the World Cup? Or
yeah,
the
man.
finals?
No, let's do World Cup because I'll be able to talk more about the finals, and you can talk more about the cup because I only went through the highlights of the actual final, but I don't have any memory of the actual full cup itself. I really wasn't. I don't think I was watching it.
Are you someone? Because my relationship with soccer is like I watch every 4 years. I get really into World Cup. There's something about like the idea of the countries competing with each other that I get really into, but I'm not really someone that watches regular season soccer or anything like that. I'm just more of a when the World Cup's going on, I'm zeroed in, but outside of that, not really paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably watch a game or two, or if I'm in in a crowd of people that are watching it, or
Atlanta got an MLS team and they're really good, so that's kind of contributed to me watching a bit more than I normally would.
Exactly. I'm way more into it now. But then in 2010, I don't think I was paying a whole lot of attention to soccer. I do have a really good friend of mine that's like diehard soccer fan, and he's educated me. He was over the years then educating me on soccer. So I was probably watching it. A good chance I watched a game or two with him, but I don't recall much of it.
I've always been a big FIFA video game fan. Like that was something that I would play all the time with friends in college and stuff. We'd have FIFA tournaments, and that was really like the extent of how I knew about players was through the game. And I remember distinctly with 2010, I owned whatever Xbox 360 version of the World Cup game there was, and I would play it in college my freshman year. And yeah, this particular World Cup, I tend to associate a lot of my memory with like how the US does, because obviously here, like that's the quote unquote home team, and that's who makes SportsCenter and whatever. They did make the round of 16 that year. They ended up losing to Ghana in extra time. But I remember very vividly Landon Donovan scoring the winning goal in like the 94th minute, I think it was. It was very late in the game to beat Algeria in the group stages, which is what sent the U.S. To the round of 16 in the first place. And that was a big moment. I forget where exactly I was. I was on a vacation of some sort, and I just happened to like go to the lobby of the hotel where we were staying, and there was a big group of people watching the end of that game, and I just remember a huge celebration. And that's one of my favorite things about the World Cup is how it just brings everyone together around like the country. There's no like fan hatred within the US. Everyone's just rooting for the US. So that's always kind of a fun aspect of it. I'm not sure. I mean, do you remember any of it live?
Not in 2010. No, I really can't recall.
It was a hell of a final because Spain ends up beating the Netherlands.
Yeah, I did watch that just this afternoon, the highlights of that game, and it was incredible. I mean, I wish I had been more into soccer then, because what a game. I mean, it went the entirety of those 93 minutes ended up being, and then they had to go.
It was like 0-0. Like the 1/16th, I think, is when Spain finally scored.
And so many goal opportunities that were missed. So many.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely, looking back, very interesting game. And now that I'm more into soccer, this stage of my life, especially with like Atlanta United here, I would have enjoyed the hell out of that game. Who knows what I was doing then? I don't know.
It was really big for Spain too, because I think people tend to think
it was their first,
yeah, they think of them as a powerhouse, but they kind of had this history of getting really far but not pulling it off. And what was interesting about that final was Netherlands was very similar. They also had a history of blowing it in the Final Four. So it was, a battle of two countries that were like, known for shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right.
Which one of them ends up beating Germany? It was Spain. Spain beat them 1-0. And that was the big, I think that was a big upset because Germany is just always so dominant. I remember pretty vividly Ghana, Ghana's not historically a great competitor in the World Cup, but they did beat the US and they go on to the quarters against Uruguay. And that World Cup is in South Africa. So by the time we get to the quarterfinals, the entire continent is like rallying behind Ghana. Yeah. And there's this, like the crowd's going crazy, and like all of the fans became Ghana supporters, and there was all this hope that an African team could get to the end. And they're up 1-0 going into halftime. They give up a goal on a free kick, and it sends it into extra time, and they end up going to penalties, and Ghana lost in penalty kicks. Like, there's nothing better than PKs in the World Cup for me. It's always such an exciting finish. We had a couple of those in this last World Cup from a couple years ago. At Croatia, I believe it was, went on that run to the finals, and I think they won 3 of their 4 games in PKs or something crazy like that.
Yeah, man, it's always exciting when it comes down to that. I've actually had the chance to be at some Atlanta United games where it came down to that kind of thing. So to see that live, really, which I had never, it brings such a factor to it. I can't imagine being in those stadiums at those moments, because especially in like those, different countries, man, it's so cool.
That much pressure on a single kick, and it's I don't know what the percentage is compared to free throws, like in terms of like number of PKs you make versus number of free throws. But it's like if in basketball, they just ended it on 2 teams shooting free throws until someone missed. It kind of feels like that sometimes.
And you mentioned before we started recording, the big phenomenon that happened that year at FIFA as well. What are they?
The vuvuzelas. Those long horns that were annoying as hell.
I do remember that. If anything, I absolutely remember that being a thing and being like, wow.
Do you remember Shakira's Waka Waka?
What is that? No, I don't remember that.
It's like it was the freaking song that was played for every preview, I guess, before the games would start. It was the Shakira that's like, "It's time for Africa." No memory of this.
No,
that was the other phenomenon of that year, and I remember it because my teacher, my Spanish teacher, would play it on a loop like every class.
Yeah, I think at that time in 2010, that the last thing I probably had remembered of Shakira was her like belly dancing and whatever music video she had when I was in high school.
Yeah, I think Hips Don't Lie was probably like close to that time as well.
Yeah, that's about it. Whatever that is.
I guess the next World Cup wouldn't be until 2022, but I'm pretty sure there was supposed to be Euros this summer that obviously got canceled.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
Yeah.
won't dwell too much on it. I just wanted to hit on it because I feel like every time the World Cup comes around, it's only once every 4 years, but whenever it happens, it's the one time I feel like the U.S. actually gets into soccer, and everyone like they could not watch a game for 3 years, and all of a sudden like, oh, you gonna watch the match later today? All of a sudden they're super into it. Rightfully so. I mean, it's like a little mini Olympics.
No, for sure, man. I mean, I'm definitely into it now. Like, when it's on, I'll definitely watch it. So 2022, hopefully we'll be virus free by then.
Yeah, we'll hope so. I think 26, it's coming to the States, which will be
Nice.
super exciting. And Atlanta's already been bidded as one of the host cities. So that's
Maybe we can take our daughters.
yeah, they'll be like 5 or 6. They'll be little soccer players by then.
Yeah, man. I would. Both Kat and I have great legs, so I'm sure she'll play soccer or something, or run or something like that.
Let's move now into the 2010 NBA Finals. We were going to talk about this last month because it did happen in June, but with the Black Lives Matter discussion, we had some other things to cover, so we pushed it back a bit. But this was the last championship for Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. His fifth,
Mamba.
Phil Jackson's 11th, which is just absurd to think about.
Yeah.
Like he has too many. He can't put them on all his fingers. Like he would still have one extra.
Well, don't forget he's got one as a player too.
Oh, that's right. He does.
So he's really got 12.
That's just insane. Like there's for all the talk about Bill Belichick, like he doesn't have 12. It's just crazy. But yeah, this was a great series. I don't know how much of it I watched live because I'll be completely honest, at the time I was just bitter as hell because my Magic had lost the round before and I was pissed about it. So I maybe boycotted the finals on that. But I do remember Game 7 because anytime there's a Game 7, it's worth watching. And I think you said, didn't you watch Game 7 a few months ago when COVID started?
I did, yeah, because they aired it on ESPN, and it was mainly because Kobe had just passed, so it was really before COVID. They played Kobe's last game, or at least it was before COVID got out of hand. But they played his last championship, and I was all about that. So I did watch the entire Game 7, and it was awesome. I do remember it pretty well because people don't know by now, I was and still am a huge Kobe Bryant fan. He was like my GOAT, and growing up, I just thought he was the greatest of all time, and I still do. Just personally,
he's your guy. He's your Jordan.
Exactly. I got all the guys' rookie cards. I mean, I got all kinds of memorabilia of his, and my dad would buy me the NBA League Pass growing up just so I could literally watch every single Laker game that would play. Like if I couldn't watch it, I would record it. But he was everything to me growing up. So knowing in 2010 that he was this may have been his last chance. I thought they were going to still win maybe a couple more, or had a chance to at least in the following years, but that obviously wasn't the case. So yeah, this ended up being his final and his fifth and final championship. And going back, I really was actually, because I remember watching that whole series, obviously every minute, every second, and thinking by the end, like, man, I guess I'm glad they won. I was really happy they won, obviously, and Kobe got his championship, but I guess Kobe didn't really have that great of a series, or maybe he didn't play that well. And this is just coming strictly from like pure
From
at
memory.
heart Kobe. Well, no, just pure Kobe Bryant fan, and I obviously just want him to play. I want him to play like, Jordan level. Jordan kind of set that like standard of like, I got to play like this. I need to shoot over 50%. I need to like, score like 30, 40 points a game. And when you have this sort of standard set, you're going to be disappointed in a sense. And man, going back and watching like 10 years later, I'm like, dude, Kobe had an incredible series, like from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
He had some tough games, and he didn't shoot great. But if you just go off he was the Finals MVP, obviously. But if you go off his stats to end the series, he averaged 28.6 points a game on 40% shooting, which
is insane.
He had a 6 for 20. He had a 6 for 24 game in Game 7. Like that was just like his infamous he had 23 points, but he shot 6 for 24. But man, you see like all the other things that he did. He averaged 8 rebounds, including 15 rebounds in that final Game 7. While he didn't shoot well in some of the games, particularly this Game 7, which he gets criticized for a lot of times when you go back, but it was so many other things he did, man. Like, especially like just in Game 1, like he absolutely sets the tone. He's efficient offense and like key defensive plays that win that game, set the tone. And then Game 2 is obviously like a missed opportunity. They had the lead. I don't even know what happened in the last 5 minutes because they were up by like 5, and then I know the highlights just like skip to the next game. So I guess they just completely folded. I'm sure I was pissed at the time when that happened. And then obviously so they were the home court advantage team. So they go 1-1 at home. And then you got Game 3 in Boston. They have a chance to go up 2-1. And Kobe's amazing. He plays huge offensively. Again, defensive plays, blocks, steals, crucial. And then
I think that was a huge Derek Fisher game too. Game 3. He had some really clutch plays that set him up down the stretch, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and without them winning that game, that series is arguably, it might not
probably
go
over. Yeah.
Because, the interesting thing about Game 4 and Game 5, those were Kobe's most efficient offensive games. He has, I think it's like 32 and like 38 point performances. And they were both close, man. They were both close. Mm-hmm. They just folded in those last like 5 minutes. I'd have to go back and watch the full games, but I remember being really frustrated, just being like, damn it, man. Like, why can't they just close these damn games? And I think that's where the Kobe fan in me was sort of setting in, like, oh, he's not doing enough. But really, it was a team effort and a team loss every time, which I think playing in his second part of his career, he learned how to play more with his entire team, than he had in the past, where he really kind of wanted to be the man. So I think he just trusted in his teammates, and they just lost as a team in 4 and 5. But then Game 6, they go home. They're down 3-2. Pretty giant hill against a team like the Boston Celtics in NBA Finals. And again, it was vintage Kobe, man. Efficient offensive game, distributed the ball, stepped up. His whole team stepped up. Everyone was really good in that game, and they ended up like blowing him out. I think that was actually the biggest blowout.
89-67.
89-67, yeah. And all these games were pretty defensive, man. Like, they were both really, really, really good defensive teams.
Yeah, you only had the Lakers scored 102 in Game 1, and the Celtics scored 103 in Game 2, and that's the only instances in which either team scored over 100 points. And you're going to talk about Game 7, but the Celtics scored 67 in Game 5 and 79 in Game 6, and then 79 Game 7. Just like complete drought scoring wise.
Well, I think it just goes to show how good these teams really were, man. Like, they were both just incredibly smart, great coaching. You got Phil Jackson on one end with his incredible staff, and then you got Doc Rivers on the other end. Yeah, you just have two really incredible teams on both sides that, they all want to win more than anything, and they leave it on their sleeves, man. Like, they play every game like it's their last. And that's what kind of led us into that, what I really think is a classic at this point, that Game 7, because it's just blow after blow, man. Like, both teams are just playing their best defensively. They're trying their best offensively. And this is that infamous game of Kobe's where he goes 6 for 24. Doesn't have the best offensive game, but he still manages to get 23 points and, of course, 15 rebounds. But, like, it to me was really the definition of Kobe, having that never underestimate the heart of a champion mentality. They were down early, and they battled back. And, despite his poor offensive performance, the team...
I mean, he had 15 rebounds. That's the thing about Kobe is, like, you got to look at the stat sheet and the overall contributions. And he gets, like, he just gets better... He gets better performances out of some guys than they maybe should give. And Jordan was the same way, like, after having watched The Last Dance. And you see the way that guys would step up in clutch moments. The game Ron Artest had in Game 7 of the finals... Maybe the best game Ron Artest ever had.
Well, he's actually key
but
he's key in back-to-back series because let's not forget, Thomas, it's Meta World Peace at this time.
Is it Meta World Peace in 2010?
It's Meta World Peace 2010, yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So yeah, in Game 5 of the Sun series, they don't win that game unless he makes that 3 at the buzzer. Or no, wait, I'm sorry, he doesn't make the 3. Kobe shoots the shot.
Kobe misses, he puts it back in.
And he puts it back at the buzzer, and they win that game. If they don't win that game, you might be looking at Celtics Suns in the finals. And then you got this pass from Kobe, the Meta World Peace, and he drills a 3 that puts him up, man, and that was huge. And then Kobe later then drills 2 free throws. But another stat line that probably goes sort of unseen after all these years is that Meta World Peace had 5 steals. 5 steals.
That's crazy.
He was huge offensively, man.
Or defensively.
Yeah,
I mean, he's always been a great defender.
And really just the whole entire stat line for Bynum sucked. I don't know why Bynum sucked so bad. I never really liked him that much.
Bynum had a bad series, and he proved he was never really anything special. That's the thing about the Lakers is that they tried to run it back when they got Steve Nash. They traded for Dwight Howard, and that experiment just never really worked. For one, I don't think Nash could ever stay healthy during his time there, and Dwight was just mentally gone. Which, as a Magic fan, I took some joy in watching him struggle because I felt pissed about him leaving. But the thing that stands out to me about the 2010 finals, it's, I think Paul Pierce is a wonderful player. He's probably one of the top 20 players I've seen in my lifetime. Kevin Garnett as well, Ray Allen. I would have to think about that. But I did like Paul Pierce a lot.
I can't stand Paul Pierce. I don't want to say hate. It's too strong. I'm sure he's a fine fellow. But at the time, him as a player, I do not like that, man.
Well, rightfully so. They're the Celtics, and I don't know about top 20. As I guess there's been a lot more players in the past 5 years that are kind of emerging, but around that time, Paul Pierce was probably one of the top 20 players, and it's really a testament to how good Kobe was. There was a controversy. I don't even know if it was a controversy. It was just kind of a joke. When Dwayne Wade retired and Paul Pierce tried to say he was better than Dwayne Wade, which is an absurd statement in my opinion, because I genuinely think Dwayne Wade is one of the 10 best players in my lifetime.
That's ridiculous. Dwayne Wade is absolutely far and
away better than Paul Pierce.
100%.
But if you want to look at just how impactful Kobe was on the overall landscape of the NBA for 12 full years, from 98 after Jordan leaves until this championship in 2010, you look at these finals, because he really, we had a big game from Meta World Peace, and Pau Gasol had a pretty good series, but he was having to put the team on his shoulders often. And when you look at these Celtics, they were so well balanced. And a lot of the ways they were able to succeed was that they just had this really deep team. I think, what is it, game 4, the Celtics win, and they had, let me get this stat here. Celtics win game 4, and they had 6 players in double digits. You had 18 from Glenn Davis off the bench, 12 from Nate Robinson. They were just super freaking deep. And the Lakers, you look at it, and Kobe Bryant, where's the points? Kobe Bryant 33, Pau Gasol 21. Everyone else is under 10. They just weren't getting help, and Kobe still won in the end, despite how well balanced the Celtics were on the other side. Because some of the games they lost, like game 2, you guys lost. You said you don't remember much of that game. I can tell you why they lost when I see that Ray Allen went 8 for 11 from 3. That's just super hard to overcome. And when you have Ray Allen who can do that, Paul Pierce who can put up 30 in his own right, Kevin Garnett who is, maybe on the downslope of his career around this time, but and I think he may have been injured through much of the 2010 playoffs, but shouldn't be understated just how impactful he was to the landscape of the NBA. And I know that for him, it was a big thing to win one without Shaq, and he was able to win 2 back-to-back. And in my opinion,
and three finals too in a row.
Oh yeah, because they went in 08 and they lost. But yeah, it just super impressive what he was able to do. Only that one finals loss. I know everyone talks about how Jordan was 6-0 in the finals, and Kobe ends up going 5-1.
No, don't forget, man. That's
5-2.
Yeah,
the year with
Karl.
Malone,
I'm sorry, but
Payton.
Malone and Peyton. I always hated that season because I was like, we don't need these guys. We're already a dynasty. We don't need these old jamokes that are fishing for a championship. Like
I
always hated that.
They were. I shouldn't forget them because they were such a pest in the Eastern Conference. But those Pistons from that,
they were good, man.
They were so good.
They scared the shit out of me. I mean, I did not feel good going into that series, and then of course Kobe had his own troubles with his legal stuff, but that just wasn't a great season. And I hated that they added Karl Malone and Sean Payton like we needed him, or Gary Payton, sorry.
Not the Saints.
No, you're right. But no, I totally agree, man. I think Kobe's really, in a lot of ways, underappreciated with this team and that championship because he was otherworldly good, man. And
he got overshadowed by LeBron. Like LeBron came on in 04, and after Kobe had won 3, but it was always seen as the Shaq and Kobe teams. And I think LeBron came on and he just kind of, people always loved Kobe Bryant, but I think he kind of got, there was never the conversation about him and Jordan because people were so ready to give it to LeBron. From LeBron's second season, I think those conversations started about, could this be the greatest player of all time? I have nothing but respect for LeBron James. I think that he's a tremendous athlete, but he's a different type of athlete than Kobe and Jordan were. It's just a difficult comparison.
Yeah, I think overall, I've always said, and I've heard this said by a lot of other sports analysts, that he's more like a Magic Johnson, which I totally agree with because
yeah, me too.
He's just he can play any position, man. That dude can play literally any position, and I would agree that he's in the argument of one of the greatest of all time for sure. Yeah, when you talk about championship pedigree and all that, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I'm obviously partial to Kobe and Jordan, but I find LeBron to be a phenomenon, and he's absolutely part of that argument. But Yeah, I mean, it's just like any player that was ever kind of pitted against Kobe is like, because Kobe was always the next, and he was the one after Jordan, and he defeated like Vince Carter and Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady, and anyone else that tried to challenge him for that spot was always like, nah, it's Kobe still. But then, yeah, obviously when LeBron came on, it was like, all right, this is the guy.
I do find it a shame that we never got to see those guys go at it in a finals. You know, that's one thing that
so close.
We close. Got. What was it? 2009 was the year it was close.
I believe it was because of your damn Magic.
That's right, baby. I knew it. I just wanted you to say it.
I was really hoping for a LeBron Kobe matchup, and then of course it ended up being a Magic. And I was like, oh my god, I hate Dwight Howard. I hope we crush him. But I was looking forward to that like star power, like Kobe, the man versus the future. Like,
oh yeah, Kobe versus LeBron. I mean,
I don't know.
The result would have been the same. Those Cavalier teams, unfortunately for LeBron, they just were not on the same level.
That's it. So, that would have been so great, is that Kobe would have crushed LeBron in the finals, and it would have sort of like swept him away for a little while, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was so evident. Like, they were a great regular season team, but when it came down to it, that like LeBron just never had the supporting cast in those early Cleveland teams, and then by the time he goes to Miami, the Lakers had started to go downhill. I think they had a good run of like 3 seasons where they were still finishing in the top 3 in the West, but would just I think they lost to the Mavericks the next year. And
that is pretty embarrassing exit with Phil Jackson against the Mavs, and that's when Bynum that's why I really do not like that guy to this day, because he just completely imploded on the team, and I think I think he might have some mental problems. So I mean,
yeah, maybe.
I hope he's okay and doing well today. But I think he was having his own personal issues, and he caused him to act out on the court. And it just like, as a fan at the time, I was like, dude, killing me. And
have you maintained Laker fandom post Kobe?
I told myself I wouldn't care once Kobe retired, and that was sort of the case for like 2 years, because they were bad, and I just like, whatever.
Yeah, they were. But really, I mean, they've been atrocious from probably 2014 until now, like that whole stretch.
But I did remain a fan of basketball in general, and
yeah.
When LeBron came into the team, I was like, all right, this is kind of interesting. Let's see how this plays out. I still don't really care that much. And then obviously when Kobe passed earlier this year, now I am fully fledged Laker fan again, and I really want LeBron, who I have a lot of respect for now at this point. I think he's amazing, and I love watching him play. I got over that whole like him versus Kobe thing years ago. So I would love to see LeBron win a championship for Kobe and the Lakers, and that's absolutely who I'll be rooting for here. If the season or the playoffs end up happening here at the end of the month. Lakers are my favorite, and I'll be rooting for them.
Well, the ironic thing is that it's LeBron and Dwight are both on this team now,
right?
After that whole thing in 2009. Now
if Dwight
finally gets a championship.
If he decides to play, I guess.
Yeah, because he's one of the people that are saying he might not play, right?
Yeah, but I think he's going to play.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like if this whole little playoff thing experiment in Orlando does happen, I'm interested to see the result, because I think we're going to get some interesting matchups, and I'm really hoping for a Lakers-Clippers showdown, because I think for the sport that's the best head-to-head matchup right there, in my opinion.
That's cool, and also that'll be the first game that we get to see. Oh no, well, this is technically the second game, but first night that it starts to air, Lakers-Clippers are the second game of a doubleheader of that like 8-game whatever before the playoffs actually start.
Well, let's move on from sports and let's get into some movie talk. What do you say?
Sounds good, man.
Well, let's get into our in-depth review of Inception.
I can access your mind through your dreams. It's called Inception. The seed that we plant in this man's mind may change everything.
We should walk away from this. This was not a part of the plan! You're not prepared for this!
Inception, rated PG-13, in theaters and IMAX, July 16th.
Bomb!
I was waiting for that. You can't talk about Inception without the blom. It's like a character. It's like a character in the movie. Maybe one of the better scores of all time. But yeah, Inception. I talked about this movie in the first episode. I'll be candid. I was thinking about this the other day as we were getting ready to record, and this is one of my 5 favorite movies of all time. Of all time, this is one of them. I love this movie to death, and it is about dream thieves. It is silly as hell, and I don't know how anybody thought about this, but this movie works for me. Every time I watch it, I'm just completely swept away. We just mentioned the score. The score is amazing. It's incredibly well directed. The set pieces feel like James Bond movies. Like I believe that this is Christopher. Like, he's always wanted to make a Bond movie, and I think he did it with Inception. It just wasn't a Bond movie. He managed to do it inside of a weird dream world. And you kind of like see that with some of the set designs in Inception. Like he's got like the rainy city street and the hotel lobby and the snowy bunker or whatever. He found ways to like get all of his favorite spy sets from movies of the past and just bring it into this dream world. And then you have the performances that, are all fantastic. I think DiCaprio is great as always. I think Tom Hardy in one of his like first major movie roles is like so charming, and something about his quips with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character are like still fun on rewatch. Yeah, I just love this movie, and I know that you like it a lot too. But if you want to talk about it, we'll hear your thoughts now.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually, I have it pulled up on IMDb, and I didn't realize that they had it ranked as far as however IMDb ranks things. It's number 13 all time movie.
It's high.
Just right in between Forrest Gump and Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. So that's impressive. And then, I mean, it's funny going up. Number 4 is The Dark Knight, another Nolan movie that we all know and love. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, Inception's one of those rare movies where I actually remember exactly where I was at the time. I was actually on a road trip with some buddies of mine, Atlanta all the way to the West Coast. But yeah, in between we stopped and visited my buddy Ethan, and we went to a theater in somewhere out there in the mountains of Colorado, and we saw Inception. I was absolutely blown away by it. I wouldn't say it's like top 10 movie for me or anything of all time. I would put it maybe top 20, but I would say top 5 ending. One of the greatest endings ever. That's what always
the big selling point of the movie is that ending.
Yeah, that's what always stands out in my head. And you have a great story about the ending, which I'll let you tell. But for me, I just it's a roller coaster of a movie, man. Like some of the coolest visuals I had ever seen at the time. I love Leo, just like any heterosexual man in 2010. I thought Tom Hardy was great, and I had never heard of him before, so that's my introduction to Tom Hardy. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's perfect, pitch perfect in this movie. Of course, the Juno star,
Ellen Page.
This is why I pull up IMDb and I don't even look.
They're all great. I think even like rewatching this movie again, Cillian Murphy, who plays Fisher, the guy whose mind they're trying to get into, he's the Scarecrow from Batman Begins, and he does a lot of Nolan stuff. He's great in this movie too.
Is it Cillian Murphy?
Killian or Cillian? I'm not positive, but yeah, I think he's great. And Marion Cotillard is another one as the dead wife, like the infamous dead wife that Nolan likes to put in all of his movies.
She's amazing.
She's
I would
transfixing.
I would say she's arguably the best actor in this film.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about Michael Caine. Michael Caine is always good.
He's in every Nolan movie, like regardless what capacity. He just has to come in for like a couple scenes here and there.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway with this movie is in watching it, and not a whole lot of it makes sense in the first viewing, and then I rewatched it a couple months ago, or maybe whenever we did our first podcast, I went and I think I watched it like a few nights later because it got me like, I want to watch that movie, and I guess it makes a little more sense 10 years later. But I think a really cool thing about the movie is that I don't know if it'll ever make total sense, and I think that's part of the point of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how mind-bending it is, how you never really can hone in on exactly what is happening. And you can it kind of leaves it up to your own interpretation, which I always love those types of movies that
the ambiguous
leave you,
ending.
yeah, not only leave you wanting more, but also leave you wondering like, what the hell? I don't know what I necessarily just watched. So,
well, it's a discussion. And the first time, the big thing with the ending of Inception is that it has the cut to black as the top spins. Is he in a dream? Is this reality? And, he does that. Some would call it a bit of a ploy to, cheat some sort of audience reaction. But I don't, when you saw the movie the first time, did you have like a definitive take on what you thought was the answer to that question? Is it a dream or is it not?
I knew what I wanted it to be, but I did not have a definitive answer. No. But
Right.
I knew I wanted it to be that he got out and that he's back with his kids. But I did not think necessarily that is or was the case.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it, I didn't have an answer to the question. I was just kind of fascinated by the fact that there was a question. I was reading articles and I shared in the first episode that this is the only movie that the ending had me so wrapped up in what was happening that I jumped out of my seat and I exclaimed to the screen like I wanted more of the movie. And I was like almost upset at the ending that they had given me, but I was just like so blown away with it that I couldn't help but applaud. And what I loved about it is like it made me want to go back. Like the second it was over, I'm like, I want to see it again. I want to look for clues and try to find any Easter eggs that might give me an answer to that question that the ending gives. And the more times I've seen it probably 10 times. It's just more evident that there isn't an answer. There's not supposed to be. And I think that my big take on Inception is that, whether he's dreaming at the end or he's not, doesn't matter, because the point is that he doesn't care. He spent the whole movie spinning his top, questioning his reality, trying to seek some sort of redemption for the regret he has over what happened to his wife. And at the end, he's finally content and he doesn't care that he's in a dream or not. And what I think, and this might be a stretch to an extent, but what I think makes that message so cool in the grand scheme of what this movie is that like everybody has so many questions about it because they feel so confused about who's the dreamer and if someone's building the dream, then how does this work? The questions don't matter. In the end, that message about DiCaprio's character and how it doesn't matter because now he's content. The movie doesn't make a ton of sense in some regards, but the point wasn't for it all to make sense. It was to completely wrap you up in the magic of storytelling and just get you so entranced in what's happening that you go with it and you don't ask all the questions, because the movie plays a lot like a dream, and then it ends and you're kind of like, wait, what the hell happened? Like, holy shit. Like, I kind of have to like go back and piece some of that together, but it's just a fun movie. And every time I watch it, I'm just as with it as the last time I saw it.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with the whole feeling like, because the more I watch it or I rewatch it, the more I feel like, yeah, I mean, it is exactly that. It's just they're in a dream within a dream within a dream, and you're also a part of this wild dream as a viewer. And I think that's the best way to walk away from this movie, is that like it is just that. This movie is mostly a dream, and just like most of our dreams in our lifetime, we don't really remember them that well. I mean, I would consider myself a pretty good dreamer, so I actually do oftentimes will remember like a good part of my dreams when I wake up sometimes, but every single time, I don't remember that dream fully and like fully formed. I just have pieces and characters and like, maybe a type of narrative. But I think to what you were just saying, I mean, that really makes it easier as the viewer to just like walk away being like, well, it's like a dream, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. Doesn't have to make sense, but holy hell, was it a great ride.
Yeah, it's a hell of a ride. And there's this quote that I heard. It wasn't in relation to Inception, but it was on a different podcast I was listening to, where he was like explaining his philosophy for certain types of storytelling. And he said the best movies will feel like a puzzle or feel like a dream. It's either this like wonderful dream that you don't want to wake up from, or it's this really convoluted puzzle that you desperately want to solve, and you're trying to like put the pieces together. And what makes Inception cool is I think that this movie is both. It's like this dream, and it's also this puzzle. And most Nolan movies are puzzles that you're trying to like put the pieces on top of each other to ultimately arrive at what tends to be a pretty good ending. He's a filmmaker known for having really strong conclusions. Sometimes they're twists and sometimes they're not. But yeah, it's a unique movie in that regard. And, I don't know, are you familiar with the whole the theory about how the characters in this movie are kind of metaphors for different parts of the filmmaking process?
No, not really. I'm also just realizing that every single character except for Cillian Murphy and his father, Maurice Fisher. So Cillian Murphy's character is Robert Fisher, and his father, played by Pete Postlethwaite. Sorry, gosh, I just butchered his last name. They're the only ones with last names.
Well, I think some of them are like only last names, because I don't know if, because you have like the Ken Watanabe character who's just Saito, and I think that's his last name. And you have like the Tom Hardy character is Eames, and Ariadne and Arthur. But I think the Leo character has two names, because he's Dom Cobb, but they usually just refer to him as Cobb, I think, in the movie.
Just Cobb, yeah.
But yeah, the filmmaking theory, and I'm not sure if Nolan's ever confirmed this or not, but if you look at the different roles that each character kind of serves in the dream building process, Arthur is kind of the one that the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character, he's sort of making sure all the pieces are in place. You have the Leo character who's assembling the team, kind of telling everyone what to do. The Ellen Page character is building the dream. The Tom Hardy character is creating the illusions that make it feel like something that is not. And then the Ken Watanabe character is just funding the venture.
Funding the dream.
Right. Yeah. So it's like the Watanabe character is the executive producer. Leo is the director. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the producer. Ellen Page is the writer, and Tom Hardy is the actor. And then you have Cillian Murphy's character, which would be the audience. Nice. So then, like at the end of the movie, when Cillian Murphy the Inception works, they convince him that his father didn't want him to follow in his footsteps. He wanted him to build something for himself. They have that real cathartic moment where the dad says, I was disappointed. And he's like, I know, Dad, you were disappointed that I couldn't be you. And he's like, no, I was disappointed that you even tried. And the character starts crying, and it's like a real emotional moment. And it's like, it's such bullshit, but they kind of did a nice thing for him. Like, it's a complete and utter lie, but I feel like this guy is now going to like go forward with a much healthier memory of his relationship to his dad, which is kind of a nice thing. It's kind of funny that they kind of do a nice thing for him, even though they're conning him out of money. But yeah, I found those comparisons interesting. And they talked about the Marion Cotillard character, and they were like, that's the filmmaking equivalent of when a director or a producer is like, yeah, that's great and all, that's great stuff. I'm really liking what you're doing, but hey, I've got this wife and she likes acting, so could we get her in the story somehow? Can we find a way to like get her involved? I don't know. Have you ever listened to the rewatchables on this movie?
I absolutely, yeah. I love rewatchables, so this is one of the ones that I've listened to, or one of the early ones I listened to when I first started listening to that podcast. And yeah, it's a great great listen.
They're not as kind to this movie, and I listened to that after watching it just to kind of like, you know, potentially gather some more information.
Who's the one guy? The one guy's a big fan, and then everyone else is like,
just kind of shits on it. Like, like, I guess it's good, but it also makes no sense. And I'm like, shut up. If you had a good time, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
But there's some major casting what ifs with this movie. I guess the DiCaprio character was first offered to Brad Pitt and then Will Smith.
Nice. Yeah. I don't remember that, but that's, yeah. I think it would have worked.
It could have worked. I think it would have felt like a slightly different movie, especially with Will Smith. I think he kind of has this charisma that, not that DiCaprio is not charismatic, but he's just like a different type of actor. And I guess the Gordon Levitt character was offered to James Franco initially.
Ooh.
But yeah, I thought those were interesting.
Yeah, that would have been good. I love some Franco.
We'll talk about him later this year with 127 Hours.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Inception before we move on?
No, man. I think we said what was on our minds about it, and I mean, I agree with you that. I mean, I totally understand why it's one of your all-time favorite movies, especially at the age you saw it at.
Yeah, it's an impressionable age.
Yeah, if I had seen it at 17, I probably would have. It would probably be in my top 10 as well. But I mean, I guess I saw it at 26, so I don't know why that matters, but I still loved it. But for whatever reason, I wouldn't put it in my top 10. But it's up there, like it's in the argument. Definitely, I think it's definitely Nolan's greatest movie.
Is it your favorite Nolan?
Yeah, I think it has to be because well, I mean, it's between that and The Dark Knight, but
I think those are the two. I mean, for me, it's Inception -- 1, but I think that and The Dark Knight are his two like most inarguable achievements.
Yeah, I think Dark Knight. I mean, that movie was a incredible masterpiece of a film, but I feel Inception, it just has a little bit more of originality to it that I would put that a hair ahead. So yeah,
I'm a big fan of Memento too. I think those are probably like my 3 for him that I really like.
Memento's great. That's classic.
My parents make fun of me because they still remember to this day. I came home that night after seeing this, and I like walked in the door and I was like, I just saw the best movie I've ever seen. And they were like, really? What movie? And I told them, like, really? Like that? And then they went and saw it and they're like, that was okay.
Yeah.
But I was riding high.
Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta. It's a great film.
So yeah, Inception. I definitely got to gush about it enough. And if you are someone that is not as much a fan of that movie, I'm sorry, you're wrong. But we'll move on to our next movie, which is The Kids Are All Right.
Each of my moms had a kid.
With your sperm?
Like in two.
Like in gay?
Right on. I love lesbians.
I get it. He's their biological father. Like, we're not enough or something?
Go easy on the wine, hon. Same goes for the micromanaging.
I feel like he's taking over my family.
Marriage is hard. Two people, year after year. Sometimes you stop seeing the other person.
Annette Bening, Julianne Moore, Mark Ruffalo.
An unconventional family.
The Kids Are All Right, directed by Lisa Cholodenko. Rated R.
The Kids Are All Right is a movie that I definitely knew about it. I had not seen it prior to us preparing for the podcast. I don't think you'd seen it either, right?
No, I never had much desire to see it for whatever reason, but I was very glad that 10 years later
to watch it.
Yeah, because it was lovely. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll kind of start with my thoughts on this. I agree. I found this movie incredibly charming. I think all of the characters were very true to life. They all had this quality about them where they didn't feel necessarily written, if that makes sense. Sometimes a character feels like they're written for a story, but these characters in The Kids Are All Right felt like people that I know. Nobody was like a villain. It's one of those movies that doesn't necessarily have a bad guy. Like, everyone's kind of just doing their best. It's one of those movies. But I found the story quite lovely. You know, it's about a lesbian couple and their two children who decide to hunt down the sperm donor that their moms used to give birth to them, and they meet him and they end up hitting it off.
Yeah,
and
he's awesome.
They welcome him into their lives. You know, the mothers now have to acclimate to including this guy in their family. And obviously there's some domestic struggles because one of the moms starts having an affair with him. This guy's played by Mark Ruffalo, who I think just gives a really great performance in this movie as what I would call a lovable douchebag. Just someone that is a nice guy who's doing his best, but he just can't really help himself but be a douchebag sometimes. And, you know, Annette Bening and Julianne Moore are the two moms, and they're quite terrific. And the kids are even pretty well known. You have the son is Josh Hutcherson from the Hunger Games franchise, and the daughter is Mia Wasikowska, who's from the Alice in Wonderland movies, and she's done some better stuff in years since. Alice in Wonderland's a piece of shit movie. But yeah,
Hunger Games. It's so funny. I thought he was from like another franchise, but now that you said that, I was like, oh yeah,
he was doing some stuff even before the Hunger Games. I can't.
Oh, he's the Journey
movies, yeah. And he was in Zathura, and yeah, he's been in some well-known movies in the past. But yeah, I think they all give really great performances in this movie, and I was quite a big fan.
Yeah, I agree. For one, I love my fellow Ginger, Julianne Moore. I could watch her in anything. I think she is one of the finest actresses.
Great. Yeah.
She's just one of the best actresses ever. Annette Bening, on the other hand, I was watching this movie thinking, like, I don't know, and this is nothing against her, like, personally. I think she's a wonderful actress, but I don't know if I've ever liked her in any movie I've ever watched with her in it. Like, I find her so unpleasant. And, of course...
That's funny.
You mentioned there's no villain in the movie, but and she's not, and I wouldn't say she's a villain at all, but she is the person that's most unliked throughout the film until the final act, where you're like, wait,
you feel bad, you feel for her. She's the one that got cheated on, and
and I think she is a tight ass, and she's like very like, I would almost call her like a Karen, if you will, like this.
Yeah, she's rough around the edges.
Yeah, she's very judgmental and very like. She's hard to live with. She's hard to be married to. And I think she was great. She's always a great actress. But, yeah, I was thinking, like, man, I don't know if I've ever liked any of her characters. Yeah, so... And, of course, I was in love with Mark Ruffalo's character, Paul, for most of the movie until he's, like you said, he ends up being, really in the end, kind of douchebag and just completely out of his element. Big fan of Mia Wasikowska. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Wasikowska.
Joni, the daughter.
Yep.
I think she's such a fine actress, and I guess this was kind of like the start of her career as far as like her being known. And I thought she played that role really well, and I thought it was funny how her and Paul, Mark Ruffalo's character, like bonded more so than they did with the son, because like the son was the one in the first place that wanted to meet him. But also, my biggest problem with this movie, why the fuck is this kid's name Laser? Why? There's no explanation.
I mean,
why? What the hell? Why is his name Laser?
Just a dope name they settled on, I guess.
Did he like what I want to know is like, did he have another name that they named him? And as a young child, he refused to have that name. So
I think they named him Laser. Like by all indications,
wanted to be
that was his
called.
name.
No parents name their child Laser. That's ridiculous. Like he must have come up with it, and the parents were like, "No, you want to be named Laser? Fine, your name's Laser." And I think because remember when he got real touchy when Paul was like, he called him Laz or Lays or something. He was like,
no, it's Laser.
Laser.
Yeah.
I think he came up with that name, and they just let it ride. They were like, "Cool, you want to be called Laser? That's your name." So I don't think the parents named him that. I think that's ridiculous, and it took me a minute to enjoy his character enough to
get past the name.
It's just ridiculous. No one's named Laser. I did enjoy the interaction.
The movie does not describe that. The movie makes no attempt to describe why the name is Laser.
Yeah, it's bullshit. I did enjoy the interaction with when his sperm donor father Paul is hanging out with him and his buddy. What was his buddy's name? He was such a loser.
It was Clay. He was such a douchebag.
Oh my god! And he was like jumping off the ceiling with his skateboard onto the garbage can or whatever.
Yeah, the dumpster.
That moment when he's in the truck with him, and like he was like, that guy's kind of a tool, man. Like I don't like the way he was talking to you. Like that, I love that. That's when I was like high on Paul. I was like, yes, Paul's the man. Then
you go, Ruffalo.
Yeah, and then of course he starts to have the affair with Julianne Moore's character Jules, and it just kind of goes downhill from there for both of those characters. Although she has much more of a redemption in the end than he does, because he thinks they're just gonna like run away together with the kids and like just leave Nick in the dust.
Right.
But that's obviously not the case. And I mean, I thought it had a really nice, deep, soulful meaning to it about family and love and the hardships of all that and raising children and importance of education. And I love these type of coming of age movies, man. If we continue to do these podcasts through the years, you'll figure out and understand that I am a huge fan of coming of age. They're probably my favorite movies. Like that's why we talked about Hot Tub Time Machine, and I talked about how John Cusack's one of my all-time favorite. It's because of those. He did so many of those coming of age films, and like I love movies like this where you see this growth in characters, and there's no one that's like really that unlikable. Everyone's pretty likable. There's a couple characters here and there like Clay that suck, but like whatever. It's just a fun, easygoing, feel good movie where everyone is just watching, the audience gets to grow with the characters, and man, I love that kind of stuff. So I'm a sucker. I was immediately into this movie like the first like 2 minutes it was on.
Yeah, me too. Like that stuff just completely sweeps me away. And stuff.
Oh, you about to cry? Are you gonna cry?
A little lump in my throat. But stuff from recent years, even like Lady Bird comes to mind, and
again,
eighth grade. Movies like that are.
I'm done. Count me in.
But I think what I really admire about this movie is that it resists the temptation to have, the prototypical movie ending, quote unquote. Like, I feel like in a lot of movies, they would try to make the ending dramatic in some way in which, like, there's a breakup but this movie, like, the affair happens, the affair is revealed, And you even have like, you have a lesbian character that has an affair with a straight man, and you have the son who's like, so what does this mean? Are you straight now? And she's like, no. Are you gonna be with him? And she's like, no. Are you and mom gonna break up? Or like, I don't know, maybe. Like the movie doesn't go for cliche. It's just like, it's life. Like, people make mistakes. It doesn't mean that things are changed forever, but it's, you know, they make big mistakes and they have to work towards forgiveness and move on, and maybe it'll work out and maybe it won't, but that's just kind of what happens. And that's where this movie ends, is, you know, they end up holding hands, and the son makes some comment about, I don't think you should break up because you're far too old to meet somebody new. And they kind of laugh, and that's just how the movie ends. And there's really no like guaranteed resolution, but it just felt really true to life to me that they would end it on this ambiguous note. Like we were saying about Inception, how, you know, we like those movies that don't necessarily give you the answer at the end. And I think this is one of them. I think it definitely suggests that there's hope for their relationship and for them to work it out. But, you know, they don't say it for sure.
Yeah, their hands are the spinning top. Wow. These movies actually go pretty well together.
Right in.
No, it's funny you say that, because I actually, Kat watched, like, she had already seen the movie, and she came down and saw I was watching it, so she watched the second half with me, and you know, she enjoyed it. She already liked the movie, and I think in rewatching it, she was like, "Oh yeah, this is like a really good movie. I hadn't seen it in a really long time." And then, you know, we're maybe less than 20 minutes left of the movie, and they're pretty much at the worst. I think it was like 17 minutes left. I remember I paused it just to see how many minutes were left, and I was like, they're at the worst moment of their lives as we know it in the movie, and this movie's about to end in like 15 minutes. What the hell? Is there a sequel? I asked Kat. I was like, is there a sequel to this movie? I need to, because there's no way they're going to turn all this around. So
right.
Yeah,
so quickly.
To what you said, like, it's like, that's how it ends. It ends with them being in a really bad spot, but there's also the silver lining of, you know, the daughter's going off to college and the son's in a good place, and he seems to have kicked his dumbass friend Clay to the side, and there is no real redemption that we see with Paul, because I don't know, man, that guy's he's got to see a therapist or something. But I think, I thought it was really cool how they ended it again, open book. You know, we'll see where we go from here, but it's all open to interpretation, and which a lot of great coming of age films end just like that. You know, it's like Cusack and the girl on the plane and Say Anything. And who knows what their future is? It's just open for interpretation. The future is whatever you want it to be, just like your life, you know.
Yeah, I think it's an appropriate ending for the tone of the movie, because the whole movie was very much like, I remember just feeling kind of not uncomfortable, but I felt bad for some of the characters, because I'm like, you know, every time a character would kind of mess up, I'm like, they're trying so hard, and they're just like, even like the Mark Ruffalo character, he's trying, but you just like can't get it right. And the Julianne Moore character too, like you just can't help but feel bad for them at times.
Well, for sure,
when they have certain hopes and dreams that aren't coming to fruition, and I think we all sympathize with that emotion of wanting things to be a certain way, and it's not quite working out that way. But go ahead.
He finds out that there's a part of his life that he didn't even think or want to think about. You know, that he actually wants. So once that door opens, he's completely sucked in. So yeah, you obviously have some sympathy for him there, because, you know, he's led this life of just being a bachelor and sleeping around and being a cool guy, but at the same time, I think what he says, I guess he's like in his mid-40s in the movie.
Yeah, riding his motorcycle,
yeah,
you know, eating everything organic, and just trying to be as cool as he can be, but, you know, still like a little bit immature emotionally. I would say. Yeah, this movie, like, I'm actually quite pleased that this movie got so many Academy Award nominations, because you don't normally see it with the Oscars, awarding these types of movies that are just a little more slice of life. But it got Best Picture nomination, Best Actress for Annette Bening, Best Supporting Actor for Mark Ruffalo, and then Best Screenplay. And it's hard to argue with those. I think the screenplay, especially based on what we're talking about, is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. And it was at a time too when gay rights had a lot of great progression, and there was a lot of good things happening for them. And we hadn't seen a lot of these, a movie like this where it shows like a lesbian couple and they had a sperm donor. This was all finally starting to be accepted the way it should be. And this movie really had a great sense of like great energy, man.
Yeah. And it's, I'm looking at this director who unfortunately has not had a feature film presence since this movie. She's not directed a feature since, but she's been involved in TV, and she was responsible for the Netflix series Unbelievable, which came out last year. I did not see that all the way through, but I know many people that did, and I hear really great things about it. It's about sexual assault and a woman that's not believed for her accusations, and it's a powerful story from my understanding. But she was really involved in TV in the years since Making the Kids Are All Right.
Nice.
But it's a movie that I don't know why I never watched it when it came out. It was maybe just one that I had a hard time getting someone to watch it with me, and glad we're covering it here and hopefully encouraging people to check it out if they haven't already, because it's a really, really solid film.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it missed anyone's radar, for sure, check it out.
We live in a world right now where there's no new movies, but the positive thing about going back to the decade like we do, we're still finding new things and finding ways to engage in stories that we maybe weren't familiar with before.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
We've been recording for a while, so let's go ahead and wrap up our July episode of Back to the Decade. We'll come back to present day now for a second, and I think for August, there's the summer of 2010, not great from the blockbuster perspective. Like, when I'm looking at it, like the big franchise movies, there really isn't anything of like huge note, but really good stuff came out in like limited release and whatnot. And next month we'll talk about The Other Guys and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which
I'm excited about that.
Both tremendous movies that we like a lot. And I didn't realize that Scott Pilgrim had come out in August. I think I remembered The Other Guys as a late summer movie and seeing that like right before going back to school or something. Scott
Pilgrim was a big old bomb in the box office too, and takes on incredible cult personality.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we cover the movie. It was just terrible performance at the box office, unlike Inception, which was just a massive, massive hit. But yeah, let's talk about some fun stuff today, and next month we'll record it a little bit early to have it in the bag before the babies get here in a few weeks. But we'll keep on schedule and try to get everything out month to month. Once again, now part of the We Made This podcast network, and excited about future possibilities with that as far as having guests on the show and maybe expanding some of our conversations. Yeah, with that, we'll wrap up. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next month. I keep doing that. One of these days I'll stop freaking doing that. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
elsewhere on We Made This. The time is now. A Millennium podcast.
You've actually managed to get on 12 episodes of season 2. I'm thinking that you quite enjoyed season 2. I counted this up before.
See, that's why you're the host and I'm the podcast and talking dude. But wow, 12, that's amazing. I am stunned by that fact. I am very sorry, listeners. But no, absolutely thrilled. Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
That would probably equate to about 24 hours worth of Darren Mooney. I think it works out somewhere around there.
Yeah, it probably does. I'm also sorry for that, listeners.
It's absolutely a goldmine of information. I love it, Darren.
I'm in a band podcast.
Some bands record in standard tuning, but then when you go see them live or hear a live album, it's in E flat. But I think it's for maybe the vocalists.
I was just going to say, is that to save like vocal strain live? Perhaps. I know Green Day. They've always done that.
Have they?
Fair.
Yeah, they're one of those bands. A lot of punk bands do it.
Maybe we should do that.
What are you saying, man, about my vocals? You said maybe we should do that. What are you saying? What are you insinuating?
Ding ding.
Just
round
saying,
one.
Just saying maybe you might want to think about, extending your range a little bit. I don't know.
Oh, burn.
The Movie Palace.
How do we feel as keen cinema goers about the potential for cinemas to reopen? And you can answer this on like a personal front or as an abstract point, I guess. Kelechi, how about you?
For me personally, I miss the cinemas like anybody. I to kind of use a very popular science fiction analogy, the idea of, going into the cinema, finding your screening room is like stepping into another dimension. And behind that door is a story to be told.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.